special.
Brother, I'm a blue-collar guy. Everybody who's ever met me will tell you the same thing. I'm exactly, what you see on TV is exactly who I am. I'm just a kid that grew up, kind of in a weird family situation. Blue-collar, had every crap job you can imagine. What you see is what you get. There's nothing, you can ask me anything you want, and I'll tell you if I know it, and if I don't, I'll tell you I don't know it.
So, we're rolling, so. Oh, nice. Well, yes. We're here at the UAP Disclosure Fund after party after the D.C. hearing, and we're here with our hero, Lue Elizondo, Mr. Elizondo, and, I have some questions for him, but I'm literally shaking, so I'm going to read off my phone.
That's because it's cold in the room. That's why I shake.
Okay, all right, here we go. So, Mr. Elizondo, you've been at every step of this process, almost becoming our faithful steward of disclosure. Consequently, you've laid much of the groundwork that brings us here, to the second official UAP hearing in the modern age. How does it feel to be here, testifying under oath before the American people, and how is it different from the historic hearing last year with Mr. Grush, Commander Fravor, and Mr. Graves?
Well, Thanveer, first let me start by saying thank you, but the reality is I can't take credit for being at the tip of the spear. Disclosure has been a process that has been ongoing for decades. There's been a lot of people before me, like J. Allen Hynek, and other individuals that deserve probably way more credit than I do. And the credit that I do deserve has been always a team effort. I came into this topic really in 2009. There were a lot of people before me that were working this topic diligently, in secret, and in the open. And it's really been a group effort. I tell people all the time, I hate the cliche, but I stand on the shoulders of giants. And I mean that sincerely. What does this mean historically? Well, I think it's a continuation of the last hearing that my colleague Dave Grush was part of. That was really historical. I think this is probably less historical, but hopefully equally informative. My hope was to accomplish a unified understanding by Congress, who represent the people, that this is a topic worth pursuing, right? No matter where it may lead you, it's worth pursuing, whether it's a national security perspective, it's more humanitarian, esoteric, or anything in the middle. It's a conversation worth having. How does it feel? It doesn't. I don't have the time, and I don't take the time to relish in any accomplishments. I make mistakes all the time, and I spend more of my time trying to learn from mistakes than I do relish in my achievements, because anybody can succeed, but failure sometimes is more important because you learn from those failures, and that will ultimately lead to more successes, right? So I'm less concerned about the successes. The successes for me personally, I do think this was successful for the American people in Congress. I'm really, really happy to see Congress taking this seriously, and you could tell by today they are taking it very seriously.
Yes, they are.
And so that for me, it feels good, but I don't ever take the time to look back at my own successes. It's just not who I am.
Well, speaking of these decades of disclosure and progress, I've spoken to many figures in this community, from UAP writers to the anti-gravity researchers to the policy folks, and sometimes people such as yourself. And I found that many in the community are aware of the peaks and valleys of disclosure throughout the decades, whether it's Roswell in the 40s, or UFOs over DC in the 50s, or Major Keyhoe in the 60s with NICAP. But many also feel that this era of disclosure is different, because besides yourself and Chris Mellon, we finally have highly credible officials such as Colonel Nell, Admiral Gallaudet, and David Grush behind it. Do you agree with this analysis? Do you agree that we're capable of getting this across the line instead of falling in another decade-long valley?
Well, I've always said that disclosure is a process. It's not an event. And I think we're well down the road of that process. I'm not going to take credit for us being this far in the process. Again, it's been a group effort, but more importantly, it's building blocks. I consider ourselves just one link of a very long chain. And we are here where we are today because of all the links of the chain before us. And I also think that situation and circumstances are different. Back then, we were at the height of the Cold War.
Yep.
And there were really serious consequences if we were to project our vulnerabilities to adversaries. The situation isn't quite the same anymore. The enemy, the threats aren't really the same anymore. And so one thing I've learned is that my generation did a really good job at screwing this topic up. Your generation is actually really good at being able to understand this topic without freaking out, excuse the vernacular. Mm-hmm. Your generation is much more accepting of changes in our understanding, whereas my generation was less flexible. And so for that, I think part of our success collectively is because of your generation. I think you are just, frankly, you're a smarter generation. You have more information at your fingertips. When I wanted to learn about something in school, I had to go to a library and look at a 10-year-old encyclopedia. You've got the entire world in the palm of your hands, right? So your learning curve is much different than what my learning curve was. And part of that, I think I credit to where we are today because of your generation.
Well, we appreciate that, and we're absolutely trying our best with this. And as a final follow-up to that, do you think that we're in a stage where this disclosure process is inevitable in the sense that, is this something that cares not for who's at the executive or who's at the helm congressionally?
Yes and no. There was a period of time where we collectively would rather keep our heads in the sand, knowing the reality around us. Most people were uncomfortable with that reality and rather remain ignorant and keep their heads in the sand. I don't think that's the case anymore. And again, I go back to your generation. You're the generation that dares to take your head out of the sand and look around and actually ask the hard questions. My generation, not so much. And so, do I think we're going to put the cat back in the proverbial bag? I don't think so. I think we are at a critical mass now. I think enough people are having the conversation who occupy the right positions in our government that something really drastic would have to happen for us to go back to where we were 7 years ago.
Well, you are a damn hero for us. And listen, as accessible and as grounded as you are, we are extremely, extremely honored, just so honored to have even a minute of your time.
Listen, brother, the honor and privilege is mine, I assure you. We are only here and we're achieve what we've achieved because of this collective effort. And you are very much, your audience is very much part of that calculus. So
absolutely, that was our last question. And
Tanvir, honor and privilege. Thank you so much. Please keep doing what you're doing. You're making a difference.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.